how did I become the best fashion scaler on the planet? Well, it actually came from pretty humble beginnings, and I kind of faked it until I made it. That's a fun story I'm going to share on this video. For those of you guys who don't know, I am known as a DTC Cotton King on X, on LinkedIn. I didn't call myself that. Someone else called me that, but I loved it so much that I just ran with it. I have done so much fashion advertising that I have literal playbooks for. I know exactly what to do, how to do it, and I can spot it within 10 minutes if a brand has what it needs to scale in the fashion niche. But I actually got my start working for a $200 million a year e-commerce brand in the homeschooling space, selling textbooks and video programs, and they did serious numbers, and I got my start there. But then afterwards, I remember I made them several $1,000,000 from a campaign. I asked for a raise, just a couple bucks an hour, because I was paid hourly back then, and they said no, and I was like, well, this sucks, and so I left. And I started just doing freelancing off Upwork, and I got my first fashion gig from a brand called Rage On. Rage On was a print-on-demand marketplace where they did the printing. They can print your design on anything, on t-shirts, on hoodies, on shorts, on shoes, on canvas, on blankets, on pillows. But they were also a marketplace where people didn't have to create their own website. They make their own storefront on it, drive traffic to it, obviously get a cut of the sales because it was their merchandise, and the brand got it. But the brand also had their own designs as well. And so they actually hired me to run their advertising. I'll never forget, they were doing, maybe like $20,000, $30,000 a month on when it comes to meta ads. Back then it was Facebook ads. It's not a lot of money, but we cracked it. And at one point, I was spending $200,000+ per week on slinging these ads on the different products. And most of them were all fashion. It was like t-shirts and hoodies and shorts. But I was spending $200,000 per week. So literally almost $1 million a month just running these ads. So that's when I really figured out how to scale fashion brands. And back then, my process was quite simple. And a lot of people don't know this is the things that crushed for me early on was I was very good at writing copy, but also in the very beginning, we were one of the first ever brands, because we're spending so much money, to run dynamic product ads broad. Because back then, you could only run dynamic product ads in a retargeting campaign. You couldn't do it in a broad setting. I remember Meta gave us like several $100,000 to run this beta, and it completely tanked. It did not perform whatsoever. So what I would do though, is because I like the idea, is very simple. Every single week on a Monday, I would launch 20 new ads. And I typically always did carousel because back then you could do single image and video, but like for this store, they had millions of products and it wasn't enough. And so every Monday, what I would do is I would look at a product report on their back end, their Shopify. I would look at the best selling products, which are the ones I was typically advertising, and I look at the ones that had the highest percentage change from the previous 7 days. And the highest percentage change typically told me that those were up and coming new products. So every Monday I was looking at those, the products that we were slinging that were crushing. I would launch 20 new ads. That'd be 20 new carousels, new copy, new images if I could find it. And then I would look at the percentage change, and I would look at those are the up and coming, maybe the hidden winners. I would launch new ads on those highest percentage change in the back end of Shopify. So what that did was it gave me a cycle of always making sure the new ads were fresh on the top sellers, but then also on the stuff that maybe were top movers that were moving and selling that maybe we just didn't have the visibility on. With that report, I will launch new ads with those. And that was really the process besides that, specific copy and targeting audiences and that stuff like that. But I was spending $200,000 a week in that process. Like that was the process. Every Monday I did that thing. I launched, and throughout the week I would optimize, scale what worked, and pull back what didn't work. But once I did that, I eventually left that company for a lot of different reasons. And then I started going off on my own, getting more fashion brands. And then very soon after that, I got another fashion brand that did fashion, also shoes. I scaled them to $6 million. And since then, we've done with my current agency, Rapid Digital, done many $1 million days. In fact, 23 brands we've gotten to $1 million a month, and there's been 37 brands we've gotten to $500,000 a month. Many of those brands started around $50,000 a month with us. So like I've done this many, many times, and half of those brands are fashion. And over this time, I've learned some really important lessons. And when it comes to fashion, I love fashion. The reason why is because there's very few brands and brand categories that over time, throughout the length of that brand, you can keep increasing prices because people's perception of you increases and your margin just keeps driving a bigger wedge. Not many brands can do that. Yes, you can still make a lot of money with brands like consumer brands, but you're not in the process of always increasing prices because perception is increasing, which means people are willing to pay more money for it. And that's why I've just fallen in love with fashion. If done well, it is the most profitable niche you can run in e-commerce. Not the only one, there's a lot of profitable ones, but from my experience, one of the most profitable niches that you can run. So a few lessons that I have learned over these last 8 years being the number one fashion skiller on the planet. And the first one is just to make good ads, is you have to really understand that not all fashion solves a problem. So instead you have to make it quite emotional. And what really taught me this lesson was there's a fashion brand I worked with and I was really struggling to crack it. But so what I did was I did the unscalable thing. Very simple. As people who are buying the product, I just literally started messaging them. Hey, I'm so-and-so from this brand. I acted like it. Thank you for buying this product. Just want to hear from you. What are you looking for? How's the product fit? Just want to get your impressions. I did that. And then also people that were like engaging with the brand. I'd go look at their Instagram profiles. I look at their Twitter profiles, their Facebook profiles. I go and look at how they interacted with their friends and their pictures that they were posting. And I started to formulate, okay, what do they like? What are they talking about? And what settings are they going out and wearing their clothes? And so I just started doing this enough to where I started to formulate, okay, this is the type of person who buys this product. Here's how they think. And the next part was I did some copy hacking. So copy hacking, I think, is the best way to write copy. It's very simple. Is you essentially just steal other people's words, specifically your customers or people in your niche, and that's it. You hack the copy. And so copy hacking actually came very popularized by Joanne Weave from Copy Hackers. And she tells a story very famously where she had a brand that was selling like alcohol reformation, for example, like how you can get out of alcoholism. And a great way to do this is you go directly to your specific brand, steal all the comments, reviews, then go to competitors, then go to things non-adjacent. So a non-adjacent category would be, let's say, for example, I'm a fashion brand that sells mom jeans to hide the postpartum kind of like belly fat that I can't get rid of, right? A non-directional great place to go and like do this research is to go like book categories. So go find books on Amazon, for example, that talk about postpartum fitness, postpartum depression, and just get inside their head because people are in a certain life cycle that they're in right now. There's many different ways to understand how they think. Just go find 9 adjacent categories that are also in that same lifestyle or talk about that same life cycle and then do your research there. But I'm bringing this up because the ad was very simple. The first Wonder Woman movie had just come out and someone mention about this brand that, oh, this kind of looks like something that Gal Gadot would wear, who is the Wonder Woman, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's quite interesting. And other people were like commenting on her comment, yeah, oh, I just love that movie, right? It's like, okay, like, and these women kind of fantasize about being the heroine, right? The female superhero. And so we took that copy, we changed it, and we said these are the boots that Wonder Woman would wear on her day off, right? And that's what we did. And that ad crushed. It did like $4 million. And it seems stupid. It seems like there's no way that would work. It does because it gets into the understanding of what your customer actually wants. Some of the other lessons is that not every product scales. That first brand I worked with that really got my chops on fashion, they had millions of products, because it was not only their products, but other people's products. And I saw all the products. I saw all the products that sold, what brands sold, what designs sold. Not every product is going to scale. And I think that's what's so frustrating to people is you have to understand what does sell. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of fashion brands go wrong is they keep expanding their product line, thinking it's the launching of new products that's going to work, but it's launching products that people actually want. So not every product scales. And so your job, the hardest part is figuring out what do people want, what will they buy, and just making sure that you have the confidence that people are going to buy it. That doesn't mean that it's going to become your bestseller, but you have to have confidence because there's too many brands I've worked with that they are scaling so fast, so well. They kept expanding their product category, but the confidence of it actually selling wasn't there. And they have all this inventory that they can't get rid of. And that's just like the doom loop every fashion brand, if you're not careful, will find yourself into because you want to maintain the momentum, the growth, the good times, the money you're making. But you eventually get yourself into a point, if you're not careful, where you'll expand too fast because you get cocky and confident, and then you get a bunch of inventory you can't sell, and that just like starts a doom spiral. So be very careful. And the best thing you can do on that is test before you invest. Get a focus group of customers that almost become your product advocates where you can have them review products, have them try them on, for example, and then some way of assessing that this is worth my time and money to invest more inventory to invest on this extension. Because at the end of the day, who better to tell you what to buy than your actual customer? It's simple and it takes work. I understand that, but it will save you so much pain and effort if you do that. Because once you find that one product, iterate the crap out of it. What I mean by that is, let's say, for example, I have shorts, okay? Take those shorts and launch them in as many colors as I can if they're my bestseller. Then in different lengths, you could do short, long. So we have a brand right now that they had like these really jean shorts that women love for some reason. And all we started doing is launching them in different colors, different lengths, and they went crazy because you could do different lengths, different colors, different fabrics, different patterns even. So fully expand on that main hero SKU, because I kid you not, you can have a 15 million a year brand off of one core product, but a crap ton of variants of that product. Just off 15 million a year. I've done it many times. We've had a brand where jeans was their thing. So they launched 40 different colors of those jeans, right? And we've done leggings, and we've done skirts, and we've done shorts and t-shirts. So like expand on that thing, keep pushing that hero SKU until you find the next SKU that's going to scale. Because remember, not every product is going to scale. So scale the ones that are actually working and then work with your customers to find what's the next evolution to expand into. One of the beautiful things I notice is once you're doing $200,000-$300,000 a month in gross revenue, that's when you can start increasing your prices because you have enough cash flow. You also have enough of a customer base at that point that your consumers are probably willing to accept higher prices. And so start incrementally over 1 year, increasing your prices incrementally. The best way to do that is your main hero SKU, just increase prices like 10%, 15%. Nothing ever happens when you do that. And then when you start launching new products, do them incrementally higher than your hero SKU, and just to start testing if your customers are price conscious and how price conscious they are. For example, some of our brands right now, we do that in each launch. We just increase prices a little bit. What that's doing is it's also training your customers that we're becoming higher quality and our products are higher quality. And you also start to see how price conscious that they actually are. And doing that, we've had brands that over 1 or 2 years, they increased their prices significantly and then woke up to being a high quality, high price brand because the perception is there as well. And that all started with really great acquisition on a hero SKU. The really important lesson to understand is looks are everything when it comes to fashion. To be very clear, what do you stand for, but really what's the attitude you stand for as well. And this is something that as a person who I'm a huge fan of just making content quickly, but the attitude and the style is very important. So make sure you understand what that is. You can still shoot with an iPhone, but you need to understand what that is because that really changes the kind of price that you can command. And so that's the one thing I've noticed over the last several years. Some of our brands that are doing crazy numbers, like we have fashion brands that are doing $2 million a month in a space that I would not have guessed. But their creative, specifically their photography and their attitude is so unique that it's commanding prices like that. And so the other thing you're thinking about as well is your colors of your products need to really pop. In a world where we're all fighting for attention, or it's quite easy to launch a fashion brand, it's not difficult, but people can do it. The barriers to enter are quite low. You need to make sure that your stuff in the feed pops. And so some of our brands that do the best, they typically have visuals that pop a lot more than others. Either it's really bright colors, or it's the setting that they're in, or it's the moon that they're setting, or they're even doing some color after effects to make the clothes pop a lot more in the visual and everything else be a bit more muted so it feels like that it pops. Just make sure you do care about that. And if you can't yourself, because that's not naturally you, find someone that can help care about that with you and for you, because it does make a really big difference. Not everything whatsoever, especially not in the beginning, but over time, the more mature you get, you have to start focusing on those things and caring about those things, because that does make a difference, especially when it comes to the type of prices you can command from it. And the last thing is, like, your job at the end of the day is to do two core things. Is how can I be as aggressive as possible in acquiring new customers? And then how can I, at a minimum, 4 times a year, launch a new collection or new styles that are a little bit higher end to to get those people to come back and buy. So the best thing you can do is make sure you are close to a group of customers that can help focus you on what products and styles and designs to launch, so that when you launch it, all those people you're acquiring all year long want to come back. Like, you do those things, that was, like, in my opinion, the perfect mix of a highly profitable fashion brand. And I'm telling you, some of our fashion brands are the most profitable e-commerce businesses that I get to see. And most of the time, the most profitable brands that we have are fashion brands, because we teach them, we train them to just do those things. Be really focused on acquisition, as aggressive as possible, work with a CFO. We have a CFO partner that we like refer people to. And then secondly is be really specific in the customers you talk to launch products and collections that they want, that they will just go crazy and gaga over. If you can do those things, just do it consistently, you will have an absolute thriving fashion brand that's wildly profitable. It's not uncommon for many of our fashion brands today in 2025 to have 18% net overall month over month using this strategy. And that's just the one type of business model. You can also go the hybrid model, where every single month is a new drop. We have some brands that do that. There's downsides to doing that, mainly just around every month it's something new. You'd have less evergreen, but it creates a lot of FOMO, and that model works well. We have brands that do $1 million a month do that. The first model I mentioned is probably was easier for most people. It's probably the most popular as well. So that is how I became the #1 fashion scaler on the planet. And it all started with someone turning me down for a raise. And how I actually got that next job working for that fashion brand is when I had to apply for it, I had to show them how good I actually was. And I remember YouTubing some of the concepts. And how I actually got that job with that first fashion brand was because they were already spending like $30,000, $50,000 a month. And I had to show proof that I knew what I was doing. So I remember YouTubing some of those things before I submitted that video, practiced it, and I sent it to them. And that's how I got the job. So the point is, anyone can become a master scaler at anything that they set their mind to. If you have YouTube and you have sheer intuition and grit, you can do it too. And that is the story of how I became the #1 fashion scaler on the planet.